Alright, so this is the second portion of section 4.1. Alright, we're going to start with what a pivot is. A pivot is a non-zero element of a tableau used to produce a simplex tableau leading to a solution. Okay, and why that sounds so complicated is because the whole idea is that we use this pivot, this number, the whole point of it is that we use it, and we use the pivot program in our calculator to get rid of all negatives to get rid of all negatives in the objective function row. OBJ objective function row. Okay, there are some rules to this, and probably the hardest part. So first thing you do is you look for the most negative indicator. And if there are two, you're going to choose the farthest one to the left. So if I look at example number 1, the most negative indicator right here is that -2. Okay, when it says indicator, that's the bottom row. This bottom row here, those are the indicators. Okay, and then it says find the necessary quotient. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at number 1 and you're going to look at number 3 that are in that same the same column as your most negative number, and you're going to take the constant and you're going to divide it by the number in the column of the most negative. So I'm going to take 8 and I'm going to divide it by 1, and that is just 8. And then I'm going to take 4 and divide it by 3, and that gives me 1.33. Okay, now, so that was finding these quotients it's talking about up here. Now it says disregard anything with a 0 or negative. So we have no zeros, no negatives are fine. We're going to take the smallest non-negative quotient. So the smallest not negative is this 1.33. So smallest and not negative. And that's going to give us the location of the pivot. So that means that this 3 is our pivot. 3 is our pivot, and it's located in row 2, column 1, and that's all we had to do here. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing in example number 2. We find the largest most negative. So that largest most negative, that's going to be right here in this first column again with that -3. Okay, because -3 is more negative than -2. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take 6, 2, and 2, and we're going to divide the ends by it. So it's 16 divided by 6. That's 2.67. 35 divided by 2, that's 17.5. And then 6 divided by 2, that's 3. So we're going to take the smallest, all right, which is that 2.67. That's the smallest. And that gives us our pivot, which is going to be that 6 then. So our pivot is 6, and that's in row 1, column 1. So I have to show you exactly how to use your calculator to do this. But basically what's going to happen is I have that 2 highlighted right there. I want to pivot around that 2. So in my calculator I would go to Program, PRGM. Okay, and I'm going to choose Pivot because it's on my calculator. Now I've already typed in this matrix that's under matrix A in my calculator. Okay, so I hit Pivot, I hit Enter. It's going to show me matrix A, so it's going to pop up A. I'm going to hit Enter again, and then it's going to ask me for what row is your pivot number in. And I'll say, oh, my pivot number is in row 2. and then it'll ask me what column is your pivot in. And I'll say 2. Okay? And then once it, kind of going to go through that and it's going to pop it all out, then it's going to give you a new matrix. And you need to make sure that you always label your columns here. Alright, same columns, those don't change. The only thing that's going to change are going to be the numbers you're given. So the numbers your calculator should give you should be -2, 2, and then 4, and then 0, 2, and 0, and then 6, 1, and -1, and 2, 0, 0, -2, 1, 3, and then 0, 0, 2, and then 32, 40, and 120, and that bottom row, that's your objective function or your indicators. So we pivoted once, that's what it wanted us to do, write down the final augmented. Then it wants us to read the solution. Okay, so that's the second thing we're going to do here is read the solution. And we did this in the first half of the section. So you're going to look for your basic variables. So those are the columns that have zeros, except for one number. So there's our 3 basic variables. They have all zeros but one number. So we're going to take those separately. Okay, and this one is 2x2. Remember, it equals what's at the bottom, or the end of the row, so equals 40. So x2 is going to give us 20. Okay, and then right here we have 2s1, and that's going to equal what's at the end of the row, which is 32. So that's going to be 16. And then we have z right here. Alright, so we got 2z equals 120. So z is going to be 60. And then when we say out the entire solution, the ones that we didn't find or didn't solve for, those are all going to be 0. So x1 is 0. x2 is 20. x3 is 0. s1 is 16. s2 is 0. And then remember, you say with z being 60. Okay, and it's going to work the exact same way for example B there. When you go to type it in your calculator, you plug your matrix in, you go in and you say, alright, I want to pivot around this one right here. This one is located at row 3, column 3. Or row 1, column 3, I'm so sorry. Row 1, column 3. Alright, type it all in. It's going to give you back out a matrix. Make sure you give yourself enough room there to write it all out. 3 x's, 3 s's, and a z. Alright, and you should get -2, -5, 1, 4, 2, -4, -1, 5, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, -3, -1, 3, and then 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then 12, 9, 8, 36. Draw on that extra little line to show that this is the indicator row or your objective function row. Alright, and then you can just do your solution from there. So your basic variables, the ones with the zeros, that's x3, s2, s3, and z. So I'm just going to start writing it out. I'm just going to straight up say, alright, well x1 is 0, x2 is 0, x1 equals 12. There's nothing to divide there. Alright, then s1 is 0. It's not basic. S2 is going to be 9. There's nothing to divide there. It just gives us 1, 9. Okay, S3 is going to give us 8. Once again, nothing to divide. And then, finally, you got with Z equaling 36.